The Red Ranger becomes an adventurer in another world is a combination of genres, taking Super Sentai tropes and mechanics and placing them in a fantasy isekai setting. Gonna be upfront right away, I'm a big Super Sentai fan, but I don't really like isekai. The most positive exposure I have to that genre is watching a few episodes of the Reincarnated as a Slime show and liking it just fine, but that's all. Isekai has quickly become a very oversaturated genre in anime with low return rates on quality, which made me very concerned heading into this series, and it doesn't help that the last Sentai homage anime I watched, Go Go Loser Rangers, started off pretty strong but ended up pretty bland and sauceless by the end. But despite my reservations, I gave the Red Ranger Isekai a shot, and I liked it. It helps that for the anime production, they got an actual Super Sentai writer, Atsuhiro Tomioka, who was the head writer for Boom Boomger, to handle the anime adaptation scripts, which I find much more fun to watch. The manga is far from bad, but the anime additions like the bright colors, music, redone pacing, and added scenes make it stronger as a Sentai homage, which made it more enjoyable for a Sentai fan like me. Speaking of Super Sentai, every Sentai show has a unique theme that informs the show aesthetically and narratively. Even this Sentai homage is no different in that regard, with the Kizuna 5 having a very cool core motif to them, friendship and bonds. I know it's meant to be an over-the-top parody joke of a common Sentai message of friendship, but for me, it's so over-the-top, it runs around back to being awesome, especially with how much effort they put into the designs, posing, and naming that makes it feel like a legit Sentai, even with the comedic edge. With how great the tokusatsu elements are, it made me wish I was watching the Kizuna 5 show instead of this weird fantasy isekai just with the Red Ranger in it, but luckily the anime adds a lot more flashbacks to Red's earlier life before the other fantasy world, even having a whole episode about his past, guest written by the legend behind Jetman and Dawn Brothers, Toshiki Inoue. As for the fantasy stuff, it's fine. Of course, you have the comedic juxtaposition between the bombastic, hot-headed Red and the more level-headed fantasy adventurers, which can be hit and miss of the jokes, though I do ultimately appreciate how the fantasy residents learn about how important and effective these seemingly simple message of bonds and love are, which leads to Red fighting himself with a new team in this new world. I also like the anime's distinct color coding of the main characters to further emphasize the Sentai aspects in this fantasy setting, and the adventurers straddle the line between the Sentai archetypes and fantasy archetypes quite well, with the agitated blue swordsman or the aristocratic purple mage trying to prove herself. It's all fun and games for a bit, even having an arc revolving around an Egyptian-themed Kamen Rider homage to contrast the Super Sentai aspects of our main hero, but the final episode of the anime's first season really struck an emotional chord with me. In episode 12, the Red Ranger taps into the power of a berserker power-up known as Kizuna Black as a last-ditch effort to save his new fantasy friends from a villain. Kizuna Black gives our hero these amazing offensive abilities at the cost of him remembering all his past traumas, which leads to him losing emotional control and delving into hatred instead of the love that powered him before. It's a fascinating exploration into what makes the Red Ranger tick and why he is the way he is. It's nothing groundbreaking, many Sentai series have done what this show is doing thematically, but it just hits just as hard as those other Sentai shows, which sums up Red Ranger Isekai quite well. Nothing groundbreaking, but lots of fun. I can confidently say that this is a good gateway into understanding Super Sentai and Henshin hero stories if you're an Isekai or fantasy anime fan, though don't worry if you're a Sentai fan, you'll still appreciate a lot of the references and homages to the tropes and history of the franchise, or even be impressed by how legit the toyetic aesthetic is accurately replicated here. I'd love to see a second season of the anime produced eventually, but the manga ain't too shabby of a story to follow either if you want more right now.